Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. Today I am playing the Pikeman's Lament. This is a game of the English Civil Wars and it's my first time playing this game rule set, so I thought I would do a short game, a smallish sort of game. I've got it all set up on my board here and I'm playing the game solo, really as a learning and reflective sort of game. So I want to try out some of the rules and see how I get on with that. And a good way to do that is playing it solo. It's not necessarily the best way, you know, having someone teach you is probably the best way, but I don't have that, so I thought I would play it solo and give it a go. What we have got here is we've got the parliamentarian force nearest the camera on this side of the board here. It is led by the famous Bob of Spalding, which is a local village to me, who were historically a parliamentarian village. Bob of Spalding is in this group here and he's the leader, and he has a trait of offensive, so he can activate one of the offensive units, which is the one he's in, Pike. And the parliamentarians have 2 units of pike, they have 4 units of shot, muskets, and they have 1 unit of horse. And the horse, I have decided I'm going to try out using the trotters unit type. Conversely, on the other side of the board, so on the very far end of the board there, we've got the royalists. They are led by Warwick of Crowland. Crowland is the village that I reside and was a royalist village, so 2 quite close village stroke towns next to each other of opposing sides. And Warwick of Crowland is in the pike unit, right over on that side over there. He has a trait of offensive, so musketry master, so he can auto pass a close musketry unit. Now I've kept the 2 sides slightly asymmetrical just as a learning exercise. So the royalists have only 1 unit of pike, they have 4 units of muskets, so the same as the parliamentarians, but they have 2 units of horse. And the units of horse are gallopers, so there's a difference in the rules between the gallopers, or the tributes between the gallopers and which of the royalists and of the trotters, which are the parliamentarians. Both sides have a gun, and the guns are exactly the same in terms of the rule set, so I've checked anyway. So both sides are a little similar in that they've both got 4 units of muskets, but the parliamentarians have got more pike, but the royalists have got more horse. The board is not that big. I'm playing on about, I don't know, 6 by 3, something like that. It's the board that fits nicely on my table. I do have larger boards, so I thought I'd see how I get on with a smaller game. It's also a little bit easier to film as well, rather than great big boards. But it is a learning exercise, so it's much about me going through the mechanics. And what I'll do is I'll play a number of turns and until the victory conditions are met. The scenario for today is very simple. It's just a meet and fight between the 2 villages. That's the sort of thing that I would imagine was in my imagination was going on. There was a little bit of friction between the 2 villages actually historically, but not like this. But in this game it is. And the 2 sides are going to meet up, have a bit of an old scrap, and the first unit that gets a certain casualty limit, I'll call it a day, play a number of turns, etc. What I'll do, I'll play off camera, and then I'll film a little segment at the end of each turn, explain what each unit did, and probably also talk about how I'm finding the game mechanics of the Pikeman's Lament. It's like I said, the first time I've tried it out. Now, I've never played it before, and I've never played any of the games that inspired it. I believe there's a whole series of similar sort of rule sets. I've never played them, so you'll get the sort of first impressions having played through. I have read through the rule book a couple of times, but I like to learn by actually getting some units onto the table. Now, the English Civil Wars are particularly of interest to me. I'm a big enthusiast. I've played lots of figures, but generally I don't play many games about them. So one of the things I want to do this year is rectify that. I don't have any hex and counter games for the English Civil Wars, for example. I've only got miniatures. I've got quite a few of them that I've painted. I do have a video where I show the 2 armies that I've been collecting and painting over the years. But sadly, I've never really got a chance much to play games with them. So this year I'm rectifying that, and I'm going to start with playing the Pikeman's Lament because I bought the rulebook and never played it. So no further ado, I will do the first turn and describe what happens. So at the end of the first turn, the Royalists have all moved their troops up, and you roll 2 dice to see if they'll activate and follow their orders that you want to give them, which they did. And the horse unit on the very end there, they rolled a double 6, so they got a hero type character. And what I've done, you can't quite see, but I've just replaced one of the cavalry figures with a sort of commander type figure that I had to remind me that they have a hero in their unit, which basically gives them an additional morale boost. Excellent for the Royalists. Unfortunately for the Parliamentarians, when they came to activate their first unit, they conversely rolled a double 1 on this unit here. And they took a wavering counter as a result. Oh no, Parliamentarians haven't been able to do anything in the first turn. Obviously, the sight of the good Royalist army of Crowland advancing towards them in haste has disrupted their plans, and now they don't quite know what to do with themselves. So we'll try the second turn. I do like this activation system. It basically, from how I've read it, all my units pretty much activated on a 5. There's a bonus if they're near the commander, etc. And they all were able to do that. So it's got quite a flavour. You don't know exactly if your units are going to do what you want them to do, which is I think it's a good mechanic, and also good for solo play as well, because there's that element of unknown, which obviously is very interesting. So hopefully the next turn, the Parliamentarians are going to get sort themselves out and be able to react to the Royalists. Now the Royalist plan, I feel, having seen the Parliamentarians wavering and not doing anything, are going to see that as a sign of weakness, and they're going to charge. They're going to get their horse very aggressively. I don't think they are within the range to charge, but certainly move the horse up closer and closer. The idea being the horse will capture. There's a cannon just off camera, it's just on that hill, if you remember. The Royalist horse are going to try and capture that cannon, take that away from the Parliamentarians, and the Parliamentarians are going to try and counter that. We'll see. And so it continues. The Royalists have been able to activate all their units and bring them up into the battle, and the Parliamentarians have not. They have activated their pike unit here, who march towards the Royalist front there, and this unit here put down some insolent, I would say, musketry fire on the Royalists, inflicting some casualties. So I've marked that unit on the end there. Because of the way I've based them, I'm not removing models, I'm just simply using red dice to mark the number of casualties. Because of the range of the musketry fire, they received a -1, but because it was their first fire of the battle to give musketry to the enemy, they sort of counted that out. So they were able to inflict some injuries. So I can imagine both sides chanting insults at each other, and the poor Parliamentarians, when it came to activating this unit here, completely failed and were unable to activate, and so the end of that turn. So we'll progress to the next turn. Now it does give the Royalist side quite a conundrum, because if they keep moving towards the Parliamentarians, there's going to come a point where they become in range of the Parliamentarian muskets. However, I think in the spirit of the battle, that's exactly what the Royalists would do. They would see the Parliamentarians just not really knowing what to do, and would take the fight very much to them. And they are the attacking force in this scenario. Now, also, conversely, it does mean on the Royalist activation, potentially, they may be able to engage that pike unit with their own pike and muskets, of course, and engage maybe the cavalry, the Parliamentarian cavalry here, and just off camera, of course, is the cannon. Now, the poor old Royalist cannon right at the top of the map, there on the very, very north side of the map, is completely out of range of their enemy. So I can imagine, unless the Parliamentarians actually move, the Royalist cannon will probably be completely ineffective in today's game. But we'll see. And so the parliamentarians have finally sorted themselves out, and there's been quite a lot of action in that turn. So just to go through it, so the royalist horse, which are just on camera, just there, they were able to charge the parliamentarian cannon and capture it. Hey, well done them. This unit of horse here charged the parliamentarian horse here and succeeded, but the parliamentarian got every single dice they possibly could, inflicted massive casualties on the royalist horse, and then to make matters worse, then those same horse unit came under musketry fire from these parliamentarian shot here, and the royalist cavalry have had to retreat across the battlefield. Disgraceful behaviour, retreating away from the enemy. This side, the the parliamentarians have moved up. You notice I've got some green dice. This is to remind me they haven't fired their muskets yet, and when they do so, they get a +1 for the very first time they fire their muskets in the game. This unit here gave musketry fire against the muskets over there and inflicted some casualties. And this side, between these two pike blocks, it's pretty evenly Stevens. They've kind of met off against each other. A bit of a scrap. The parliamentarians came slightly less off as a result of that, and so they've got a wavering mark, and I used the grey dice for wavering. So I had to use quite a few dice for markers, so red ones for casualties, and you could remove the models if you wanted to. Green dice to remind myself that the muskets haven't fired, and the grey dice to remind me that they are wavering. It's probably a more elegant way, and you will notice the cotton wool for the musketry fire. No expenses spared on this channel, and it's just to remind me who has fired their muskets. And I think it looks quite in fit keeping. Probably should be a bit more grey than white, but never mind. So that's quite a dramatic turn. And actually, one of the things that's interesting with the mechanics that I can see, when I was rolling dice for the casualties, I'm like, wow, you're not inflicting that many casualties. And, you know, most of the units have 12 models. This is going to be a bit of a slog. But I can see how the morale, and having to roll the dice for the morale when you take casualties, that's probably going to be the deciding factor in terms of the game mechanics. So, for example, that horse unit over there have taken 7 casualties. So I could remove 6 of the models and just put 1 on if I wanted to. But I quite like the units sort of being full. Do you know what I mean? Until the very end. So that horse unit there have got to rally and then try and get back in the fight, but they're only at half strength, etc., etc. So that's quite an interesting. It works out quite well. It's quite streamlined. I like it. You know, first impressions, I like the mechanics. Combat mechanics seems really good. And what's also quite interesting already, I can see, is quite an interesting narrative that's taking part in the battle. It's not just units facing off against each other and die rolling and slugging it out. It's movement, which I also like. So I think that was the end of turn 3. So I'll do turn 4 next. So at the minute, I don't think there's too much in it. The royalists put down some musketry fire, as you can see, inflicted some casualties, but to no great effect. They didn't make the parliamentarians retreat or anything like that. Parliamentarians, again, doing exactly the same thing, giving musketry fire. The royalists did go into combat with this pike unit and won. And the parliamentarians put some musketry down on of some royalist cavalry, which are just off camera. They're just off camera. They're just there. So it feels even Stevens. I feel probably the technically the upper hand is to the royalists at the minute because they captured the royalist gun. So the royalists captured the parliamentarian gun. So the favour is definitely in for the royalists at the minute. However, the royalist gun over there is just too far away to do anything. So it's at the minute it seems to be mostly orientated around the musketry fire and the pike. The royalist cavalry unit has retreated and wasn't able to activate, so it's still not doing anything there. There's 2 cavalry units here that are going to square off against each other, so that'd be quite interesting to see who wins as a result of that. parliamentarians had that cavalry there had a special rule where they could move a little bit and then put some using their sort of pistols, which is quite interesting. It's quite thematic. So yeah, it's sort of hanging in the balance, as it were. So next turn. And I think we're going to call the game there as a victory to the Royalists. They were able to rout off the table the pike unit, the shot unit there, the shot unit here, and the cavalry unit here for the parliamentarians. So they've lost quite a considerable number of units. I think the parliamentarians would give it up. Although they fought bravely until the end. They did obviously get rid of the the Royalist cavalry unit, remove them from the table, but to no avail. And I think the Royalist, just the sheer number of musketry, really gave what for to the parliamentarians. So a victory to the Royalists, but the parliamentarians lived to fight another day. And from a rule set point of view, yep, I can see that me playing this game quite a lot. I enjoyed it very much. The combat is quite streamlined. It all makes sense. The units can soak up a certain amount of damage. You could modify that to your own particular taste quite easily. That was sort of 5 turns. I could have played a 6th turn. So a satisfactory conclusion to a normal war game length, I think. Both sides had opportunities. Both sides felt evenly matched. I think at one point I thought the parliamentarians were actually going to do better. But as with a lot of games, it somewhat came down to the dice. It is quite... you do roll quite a lot of dice. So you're rolling 12 dice for each unit, for example, at full strength. Which doesn't bother me at all, but some people don't like that. And it certainly feels like the English Civil War. There are more special rules that I could have used, etc. I need to go away and read up on all those. This is part of a learning exercise for me. So this is how I like to learn games. Get the game on the table and move some units, roll some dice, and figure it all out. And then I like to go away and reread the rulebook again. And pick up on things that maybe I didn't get quite right or I didn't quite use to the best advantage. And I will enjoy doing that and reflecting on this game. But certainly I can see myself playing English Civil War games using this rule set again. There are other rule sets that I've got that I mentioned in my other video, of course, Pike and Shot from Warlord Games as well, which I also really, really enjoy. But a very satisfactory game. Commiserations to the parliamentarians from Spalding, but hurrah to the Royalists from Crowland. Well done, lads. And I think one of the things I do think when I was playing the game, so this I think I had 8 units per side, so technically that's 32 points. The game rulebook sort of recommends starting with 24. However, the artillery in both cases really didn't do anything, so I only had 1 unit more than it's sort of saying. The one thing I do think, and this is partly on me because I'm doing a video, it definitely suits a 6x4 game board way better, because the parliamentarians really didn't have a lot of retreating space, which is partly my fault. So, but partly also because I would normally play a game like this on a 6x4. But if space is at a premium for you, I would suggest altering the measurements. So if you're playing on a 3x4 or something like that. I would just reduce all the numerics, so reduce the range, reduce the movement, etc., which suits whatever suits your particular tastes. You could halve them and then round them up, for example. And most things move 6 inches. Foot, for example, moves 6 inches, so you could make that 4 inches if you were playing on a 3x3 foot deep board, as it were. But it definitely can. I think it can also suit, though. One thing I would mention, I think it makes a very satisfactory game playing on a 4x4 as well. So again, if space is a premium and you've got room for a 4x4, I think this will make a very satisfactory game on that because of the depth of the mechanics of the combat and the order system. I can see you don't need a huge armies per side. I think it would play very well with actually less units than I was playing with here, for example. But I would say you probably still need, I mean, it's saying 24, which I think is about 6 units. I think that feels about right. So you could have, you know, 2 pike, 3 shot and a cavalry unit, or, you know, 2 pike, 2 shot, cavalry and an artillery piece, a cannon, main gun, you know. And I think that would be really cool. That'd be it would still give a really good game, and I think that would fit on a 4x4. I might try that one time and just see how it works out. Because not everyone has space for large tables. Totally appreciate that. I don't always have either, for that matter. So, yeah, but a really good game. I really enjoyed it. Very satisfactory war gaming session using this rule set. Can definitely see me using it again. If you have played Pikeman's Lament and I'd love to hear thoughts on the rule set and the system. If you play English Civil Wars with other rule sets, please leave a comment there as well. That I always love to hear what people in the community think about rule sets and the games. I do have a video I uploaded recently where I show all my models and the manufacturers they're from and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, please check that video out. And thanks for watching, as always. Thank you.